Welcome to the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I'm your host, registered dietitian and kidney stone expert, Melanie Betts. After learning a ton about kidney stones and helping people prevent stones at the University of Chicago, I was fed up with all the terrible advice people were finding online. So I decided to do something about it. The Kidney Dietitian was born. This podcast is for people who want to learn what actually works to prevent kidney stones and still enjoy life, eating, and their favorite foods. Let's dive in. Welcome to the 26th episode of the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I'm your host, registered dietitian and kidney stone expert, Melanie Betts. And today I wanted to talk about something that I imagine is on a lot of our minds as we start the new year, as we run into 2024, sort of this idea of what if I was bad, quote, air quotes here, over the holidays. I think that, diet culture and just the world we live in with wellness being such what's viewed as sort of a very black and white thing. Nutrition and food, good and bad foods, are viewed as such a black and white thing. It makes the holidays a very stressful time for a lot of people, and it results in just a ton of this really nasty guilt and icky feeling when the holidays are over. I feel like I see so many comments on Instagram and Facebook and on YouTube, like kind of all of my different platforms right now. People saying things like, "Oh, I was so bad. I feel so guilty. I can't believe I did this to myself." And if any of that thought process, if any of those comments sort of resonate with you at all, this podcast episode is for you. If not, feel free to skip it. Not every episode is going to make sense for everyone, but I imagine that there's a lot of us out there that are feeling a little bit guilty about what we ate maybe over the holidays, even over the past, say, month and a half or so, starting with Thanksgiving. And I wanted to kind of dive into those feelings a little bit because this is something that is really important to me. I think many of you know that I'm a dietitian because I love food. I love eating, and I want to help people enjoy eating while protecting their kidney health or whatever health condition they have, right? Obviously, I talk mostly about kidney stones, but whatever health condition it is, because I think nutrition, and unfortunately what nutrition has kind of been reduced to from, again, sort of this diet culture, like Instagram wellnessy aspect, and honestly, even the mainstream medical care, if you will, which I'm a big fan of. I am all about healthcare, but I think that nutrition as a whole has sort of been reduced to this like numbers game and this good, bad, and like an imperative, like must do, like you're a good or bad person. Like we've gone so far that you say like, I'm a good, bad, I was such a bad person because I had this cake. And I really want to dig into those feelings because food is important to all of these different things, all these different, celebrations, whether it be the holidays or birthdays or other traditions that you have throughout the year. It is imperative to so many of these things, and you have to be able to enjoy it. So anyway, I digress. My point was that I'm a dietitian and I want to help you improve your kidney health. And I also want you to be able to do that in a way that you can enjoy things like the holidays without feeling that guilt, because you really, really, really don't need to, and you shouldn't. And so hopefully this episode will help you feel a little bit better if you are having any of those feelings from eating maybe differently over the past month. So I think the first thing I wanted to talk about is kind of digging into this language around good and bad food. First of all, there is no food on this earth that is good and no food on this earth that is bad. They're all just different foods, and they all have different nutrient profiles. Every food is going to be, if you love it and want to eat it, can absolutely fit into a healthy eating pattern for you. There's no single food that makes or breaks your health, or makes or breaks your day, or makes you a good or bad person. All foods are good foods. They all serve some purpose to us, and all of those purposes that those foods serve are equal and relevant, right? So I like to kind of compare maybe a cupcake and an apple. Sure, an apple probably has less calories. Sure, an apple probably has more nutrients, more vitamins and minerals. Sure, an apple probably has more fiber and other things that are generally going to be health promoting to the physical processes of your body. But that cupcake is delicious, and that cupcake is going to be comforting to you on a bad day, and that's totally fine. You know, I feel like emotional eating is demonized, and we think, oh, I shouldn't be eating for emotional purposes. It's fine. It's totally cool to have a cupcake if you're feeling stressed and that's something that helps you feel better. I think the key is to have lots of different coping mechanisms when you are feeling stressed and not just cupcakes. But that's a conversation for a whole nother episode. If any of that last, few comments made any sort of jived with you, that's the word, jived with you, definitely check out episode 23 when I talked about intuitive eating and kidney health with another wonderful dietitian named Amanda Hayes. But basically, the point I want to make for this particular episode is that there's really no good or bad food. And we have reduced nutrition to these numbers and made nutrition so black and white that it's easy to classify foods as good and bad in our minds. And again, this has even gone so far as to say that I'm bad for eating that cupcake. And you are not, right? Eating a cupcake does not make you a bad person. I imagine we would all agree generally that maybe going out and killing someone would make you a bad person. Going out and robbing someone, right? That doesn't make you a bad person. That means you did a bad thing. But you know what I mean, right? These things of robbing someone or murdering someone, these are bad things to do. Eating a cupcake should never be seen as bad and anywhere near like the level of badness as something like that. But when you start to think about the language that's used in our culture around food, there are so many things like sinful chocolate cake. Oh, I was such a bad person for doing this. I was so guilty for doing this. Like, oh, I can't believe that I did this, right? When you start to kind of look out for these types of things, they're everywhere online, everywhere. Like your friends are saying them, your family is saying them over and over and over again. And so it just kind of becomes like woven into our beings that I'm good or bad for eating these things. And I just want you to know that you're not a bad person for eating any food that might be on your mind right now, even just that cupcake, or not just that cupcake. The other thing that I want you to remember is that you do not make kidney stones in just one day, in just 1 week. You make kidney stones from dietary patterns or from lifestyle things or from untreated medical conditions that are in your body over months to years. And so, yes, maybe you had one really, really delicious day over, say, Christmas Day, and you had a lot more salt than you typically would, and you probably had some more cookies than you probably would, and that's wonderful. I hope you enjoyed those cookies, and I hope that you remember that you are not going to make a kidney stone over that one day. We have so many meals in a year, right? 365 days in a year. So 365 times 3, I'm not good at math on the fly, but that's a lot of meals in 1 year, right? So one meal or 1 week of meals is not going to make or break you. You do not make a kidney stone in just one day. The other points I wanted to make in this podcast is that it's really important to keep in mind that you don't need to make up for this, right? You don't need to eat less over this next month. You don't need to detox in January. You don't need to do a vegan-uary, right? Isn't that a thing, a vegan January? You do not need to do detoxes or cleanses or extreme diets because, one, that's just not how your body works. Like your liver and your kidneys are really good at getting rid of things, and doing these detox and cleanses truly literally don't work. They're not going to help your body detox. Your body's really, really good at getting waste that it produces as a byproduct of metabolism, which is totally normal, all the time. So you do not need to do that. And also please remember that especially for kidney patients, a lot of these extreme detoxes and cleanses can actually make things worse. A lot of them are, from a kidney stone perspective, a lot of these things are sort of contingent on you dehydrating yourself. Like a lot of these things actually are designed to cause diarrhea, which is a massive loss of fluid, which ironically is going to increase your risk of stones, actually from a variety of mechanisms, but most importantly, it's going to you're going to lose all that fluid. It's going to lower your urine volume. That's going to make your urine more concentrated in things that can actually increase your risk of stones, ironically. But even that, right? Even if whatever you're doing isn't causing diarrhea, A lot of it is going to be eating very few foods, or it's going to be eating just a ton of potentially some very high oxalate foods. You know that I'm not a huge fan of a low oxalate diet, but I think when all you're eating is spinach and almonds, and not eating it in a varied, well balanced way, specifically with calcium, like we definitely can get into trouble. So point is, avoid detoxes and cleanses. I know that your Instagram feeds and Facebook feeds and Google searches and whatever are filled with these detoxes and cleanses right now. And please, please don't just delete, scroll through, do not think about them. Make sure, as always, that whatever nutrition advice you're getting is coming from a registered dietitian, ideally not a doctor, not a nurse. Love doctors and nurses. They are wonderful, wonderful people, and they do wonderful, wonderful things, but a registered dietitian is definitely where you want to be getting your nutrition advice. And my guess is that a lot of these detoxes and cleanses and this sort of thing is not coming from registered dietitians. So just a little plug for registered dietitians. So what should you do, right? So if you are, hopefully just listening to this podcast helps you feel a little bit better if you were feeling badly or a little guilty over what you ate over the past holidays. And this is what I want you to do moving forward. I really want us to focus on the good memories that you hopefully made over the holidays. Hopefully you were able to see tons of very, beloved family and friends. Focus on that, right? Think about maybe the really fun jacket you got for Christmas. I don't know. Or think about the friend that you saw that you hadn't been able to see for a couple of years or whatever it is. Focus on that instead of the food that you ate, because those things are a whole lot more important anyway. When you think about how you're going to remember the holidays 2023 4 years from now, you're probably not going to remember the dinner that you had, unless it was an especially fantastic dinner, and that's great. I hope that you do remember it, but my guess is that you're not going to remember that you had 5 cookies that day, right? Hopefully you remember that Julie was at the table with you and you had a really great conversation about XYZ. So focus on those good memories that you made over the holidays, what you actually did and who you saw. And from a health and getting back into normal routine, my advice would be to sort of gently ease back into it. It's hard. A lot of us are, we don't take all of December off necessarily, but a lot of us aren't, firing with all of our cylinders throughout the month of December. A lot of us, we've got parties and you maybe had the last week off and you just weren't in our normal routine. So don't expect yourself to wake up on January 1st or 2nd or whatever it is and be totally back into your normal routine 100% and going at it. Just give yourself some grace and ease back into it. We can't change overnight, and that's an unrealistic expectation of ourselves. My other advice is to be really careful with New Year's resolutions. I think it's really easy to sort of commit ourselves when it comes to making New Year's resolutions. I know that this is a little bit maybe late. I know this episode is coming out on December 10th. So a lot of us have already made our New Year's resolutions, but it's never too late to reevaluate. It's actually kind of silly to think that we could set a goal that we're going to be working on all year. A year is so long, right? It's kind of silly to think that this is what we're going to be working on all year long and we're never going to change it. We're never going to reevaluate it. That's kind of a silly notion to begin with. So it's definitely not too late to kind of evaluate if you did make New Year's resolutions, what they are. Because I think, as I mentioned, it's really easy to set really, really high goals. And I'm all about big change. I'm all about, setting your goals really high. I'm all about that. However, I do think it's really important to set goals that are realistic for you. Because when we don't, if you, for example, if your goal is maybe to move your body more often, you want to exercise a bit more. And if you are someone who never exercises and you say, all right, I'm going to go out and run a mile every single day, that's a lot. Give yourself some wiggle room and see, do something that's going to feel good. My guess is if you go from 0 to running a mile every single day, your body's not going to feel very good. That's going to be super stressful. You're going to be beating yourself up because it's so hard and maybe you can't even do it, right? So the point is set goals that are going to be realistic and work for you in your life. We all have different life circumstances. We can't all be running a marathon every day. We can't all be running a mile every day. I certainly can't. I'm a mom of twins. I don't have the time or the sleep capacity to be doing that every single day. I find other ways to move my body that work a lot better. I love yoga for the record, but the point is, do something that works for you. We are all different. Don't compare yourself to your friends or people that you're seeing online. We all have such different life circumstances. Do something that works for you. So lastly, just move on. Move on with your life. Think about the holidays. They were a great time, hopefully, or even if they weren't, move on with your life and get going into 2024. Ultimately, life is about living and enjoying life. That's why we're all here, is to be happy, to help others, and just live a good life. And if you are on some diet or you're holding yourself to some standard that makes you feel like you can't enjoy time with friends, or you can't enjoy the holidays because you're so stressed about the food situation or what's going to be there, what's not going to be there, is that diet or change really, really worth it? Life is about living. It's not about counting these numbers constantly and stressing about everything you put in your mouth. It's about living. And hopefully that helps put all of this guilt that you may be experiencing over the holidays, sort of that holiday hangover, into perspective. So with that, I'm going to end this 26th episode of the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast. I know this is a little bit different, but I felt like starting the new year, it might be needed for a lot of us. I wanted to remind you that if you haven't already, I have a free masterclass coming up next week on January 18th. It's going to be held at noon Eastern time. And the title is Help, I Have a Kidney Stone, Now What? So this is going to be a wonderful sort of overview of when you find out you have a kidney stone, what should you do? This is going to be a lot of really great material if you just found out you had your very first kidney stone, or you've been dealing with kidney stones for decades. Either way, it's going to be tons of great content, and it's free, so why not, right? So again, that masterclass is on January 18th at noon Eastern. Just head to kidneystoneclass.com to register. Again, that's kidneystoneclass.com. I will also put that link in the show notes. And even if you can't make it live, just register anyway. I know that we're all busy and we can't all make a class right in the middle of the day. I totally get that. But still register so that you'll be sure to get a link to watch the recording. Because I certainly will record it so as many people as possible can listen to it. So with that, I will officially end this episode of the Eat Away Kidney Stones podcast, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to today's episode. For more help with kidney stones, check out my website, www.thekidneydietitian.org. For more personalized help from me, check out my online course, Kidney Stone Nutrition School. VIP enrollment includes help directly from me. I can't wait to see you there and help you prevent kidney stones. Have a great day.